Results have started to trickle in. Samkele Maseko, senior political reporter at the SABC, is on the floor at the Results Operations Centre. Let's cross to him now and get an update on what those figures are telling us. Samkele?
Well, essentially, Peter, those are figures that we're currently looking at now. They are largely concentrated on the Eastern Cape, where you've seen those votes coming in with the Democratic Alliance there being with the icon and the color yellow, the African National Congress green, and then on the other side of the national picture with the purple, you've got the Freedom Front Plus, which are currently, when you look at the tallies, on the number of votes across the country, the African National Congress is leading with 849, followed by the DA with 499, and also Freedom Front Plus with 151, and also the Economic Freedom Fighters coming at 57, and below them is the United Democratic Movement. So those numbers are slowly trickling in from the various voting districts across the country. We are going to try and bring in Marshal Dlamini, the Secretary General of the Economic Freedom Fighters, just to get a sense of how things are going for them. How is it looking at the polls? It's a very low voter turnout. How was it where you were in KwaZulu-Natal?
Yeah, look, we are still waiting from our party agents who are still counting. There were some stations where there were issues, even now in eThekwini College, where there were stations where they were closed because they decided just to chase the voters away. So there's still some commotion that is taking place there. But we're not in a hurry. The numbers are starting to trickle in. So we'll see what happens. But what we know for a fact that I can tell you is that we have won the Robben Island voting district. So that's a World Heritage site, so we're fine with that.
Mr. Dlamini, when you look at the low voter turnout, is this an indictment on the political system as a whole, and particularly knowing that when you go to suburban areas, those who live within those communities came out in their numbers to go out and vote? You look at the lines that were forming in East London, in Gqeberha, you look at in areas such as Centurion, Sandton, those lines were huge. In Umhlanga, they were huge, but as compared to the townships and the rural areas, they just simply didn't go out to vote.
Look, as things stand now, the report that we're getting is that we're at 10 million, as compared to the 15 million of 2016. We wouldn't want to do a lot of speculation because we'll have to sit as an organization to do a thorough check and analysis of why would the numbers go down. There are a lot of issues, the issues of COVID-19, even the limited time of campaign. We know that normally we would get 6 months of campaigning, internal and external campaigning. But this year, it was only 1 month where they declared elections and then we had to do everything rush. But we wouldn't want to speculate for now. We'll sit as an organization and be able to give a thorough report and a way forward in terms of what happened, why the numbers were not coming out. We are still watching, and we just arrived here, from KZN, so we'll see what happens.
Thank you very much, Mr. Marshal Dlamini, who's the Secretary General of the Economic Freedom Fighters. I'm going to walk across and try and bring in Nkenke Kekane, who is an ANC member, who is part of their elections team, just to try and get a sense of where they are coming from. Mr. Nkenke, just a summary of where you stand as the governing party. The numbers are trickling in. You're seemingly taking a lead, and also in the Eastern Cape province as well.
Look, counting is taking place, obviously, and we are here. It is encouraging there. That is the Eastern Cape. But it's early days. There is a problem with voter turnout. I think we are all aware, and all parties here have made that observation that there is a problem with the system itself, and we really need to look as a country and do a deep reflection of what is going on. But of course, there is a global trend of low voter turnout. It has been happening in many democracies. In our country, there is also the question of the confusion that is created by many individuals, parties that are mushrooming all over the place, and that I think has a problem of confusing voters. ESCOM has been a big factor in this election, dampening the mood COVID, of course, parties had only 42 days to campaign, and that all in all it is an issue which we need to reflect deeply as a country and say, how do we ensure that our democracy thrives, people come out, people believe in the system of government.
So, Mr. Ngegana, in essence, you are saying that ESCOM decampaigned a lot of political parties, not just your own governing ANC.
Of course, it's about the mood. I mean, the situation in Soweto is unattainable. I mean, the Johannesburg as a whole. So we really have to look at not only blackouts, because you see, there is blackouts, there is load shedding. Load shedding did make an impact in how people feel about politics, about the country as a whole. And we must face it that it has been a big factor in lowering the mood of this country. But of course, there are also blackouts in Soweto. And a lot of transformers in Johannesburg. We talked about no less than 232 transformers throughout the city of Johannesburg that are down. That in itself is a complete blackout of many communities, and we need to face it. We need to fix what is broken at ESCOM.
So in essence, as you walk out of this sports ground in Tshwane on the 4th of November, your main project going to 2024 is to sort out what you perceive that is wrong, that is being done by the current executive of ESCOM and the board of that power utility, because in essence you are saying they've cost you the election.
No, it's not about us. It's about mood. It's about, you see, if you talk about load shedding, it affects everybody, right? And so national government will have to look at, how to fix ESCOM, but also the introduction, as the Minister of Policy, because there is a Minister of Operations and the Minister of Policy. So there has to be an alignment of what is the future of energy in this country, and how can we make sure that cities, do take control in certain instances to how they relate to customers at local level. So there is a dialogue that has to take place in as far as the future of energy is concerned. But overall, this is a local government election. What are we looking for? We are looking for bread and butter issues. Our people are looking for the most basic things, service delivery. And that is what the ANC is going to commit itself to. The candidates that we've put forward are going to serve the people, and we are going to ensure that we really do look after their interest.
When you look at this voter turnout, at 8 o'clock this evening, there were 8 million South Africans who had casted their votes when that briefing took place. What's the number looking like? What do you think was the final tally of those who voted throughout the country out of the 26.2 million who were registered to vote?
Yeah, look, I mean, the figures are still a bit confusing. There is the 8 million that you saw on the board excludes the Saturday and Sunday votes. So, all in all, is a lower voter turnout. And disappointing, but you know what? It is a reflection of what people are feeling out there. There is no single political party that is not affected by this lower voter turnout.
When you look at the future of the metros, Tshwane, you had lost this capital city. You go to Johannesburg, you had won a number of wards in the townships in Soweto. You're looking into Ekurhuleni. At Ekurhuleni, we were hoping to win it by 54%. What are your projections going forward now with this low voter turnout?
Well, the time for projections is over. The time for research is over. Reality is dawning on political parties as a whole. We are going to be looking at the result very, very closely, and the results will tell us a story. So it is too early to tell. We do have a sense of what is going on, but for now, let the counting begin, let it end, and then we'll see what the outcome is of votes, and that will determine how we approach the issue of governance in many of these metros.
So in essence, there may not be an outright winner in all of these metros.
We really don't know. But I mean, look, there will be those that are gaining. We have a sense that we will retain our wards. But of course, there is because of voter turnout, there is always the question of PR and the percentages and all that. So that complicated calculation is going to be taking place, and we'll know tomorrow for sure some preliminary results about the metros. But for now, the rural areas are very easy to calculate, and they are coming out, as you see on the board.
In 2016, the dominant faction now in the African National Congress, back then, which was in minority, said former President Jacob Zuma was the cause of the ANC losing metros and the low voter turnout. What's your excuse this time around?
No, we don't have excuses. I mean, I have no recollection of what you're talking about. As for functions, I mean, the ANC has a leadership that was elected at a conference. That leadership is accountable to branches, and branches have, chosen to approach this election as per our resolutions, choosing of ward candidates. 60% of our ward candidates are chosen by our own branches. So the ANC is an organization that has leadership and its membership, and that has to be respected.
Mr. Nkigana, I'm going to take you on that one. It was your own former provincial chairperson, Polo Mashatile, who said, Parkstown will let you down in Johannesburg. It's national issues that led us to lose the city of Johannesburg. There was a culmination of those who approached Jacob Zuma in the capital city, Tshwane, and those who were also saying no Sputla, no vote, and others saying that they're not going to vote for Togo Titiza, who was being imposed by the national leadership of the ANC. So it's your own former provincial chairperson who had said that national issues caused you elections in Gauteng.
You know what? When you enter an election, right? There will be many issues that come up. There can't be one single issue. Like for instance, I talked about ESCOM, right? I talked about COVID. I talked about 42 days of campaigning. So you have a lot of issues that come up. Also in research, right? But it is up to us to learn from mistakes that were done in the past and then move forward. So I don't want to be reflecting on the years gone by. They are very good for history, but for now, let's look at how best to improve the lives of our people, and that is what we need to do.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nkigana. That was Nkigana, who hails from the ANC's NEC, who's part of their elections team. He's been camping out here the whole day. I would assume he's going to be here the whole night. The Democratic Alliance is also here, crunching their own numbers. As you can see them on the scoreboard, they're currently sitting at 499 votes, with the ANC at 849. But one of the parties that was set to change the political landscape, COPE, which is seemingly failing to cope and not on the scoreboard there right now. Then you've got the AIC here with one of their councillors from the city of Johannesburg. I wonder how many seats they will be going. Let me just squeeze them in. How is it going for you there in the city of Johannesburg?
I think we can't really say what's happening as yet. But we do know that it's still very early in the day, although we are almost to midnight. But we know it's still very early in the day, and we are seeing that we are going to get quite a few votes and retain what we have or even add on to what we have.
What do you think of the low voter turnout? Is it an indictment on the current political system?
I do believe that it's actually sad to see that people didn't come out and vote. But I also think people are tired. People would want to see change. And I think people are angry, and that's a way of protesting.
Thank you very much. There you have it from the IEC saying that the low voter turnout is essentially a way of the citizens of South Africa in protesting against the current political system and the issues of lack of service delivery that they are facing. Nkigana, coming from the ANC, speaking about the issue of the blackouts and load shedding being a huge factor in this local government election, with a very low voter turnout, Peter, the lowest that we have seen. In fact, the last election where South Africa had such a low voter turnout was the 2000 elections in the country, which saw a very low voter turnout. And this time around, it's gone even lower and sitting at just above 30%. Last I checked, it was 33.8% of South Africans who went out to vote out of the eligible 26.2 million South Africans whom had registered to vote that were on the ballot paper. But it seems as if only mere 10 million went out to cast their ballots. Back to you, Peter.